Hello, everyone. Today we're going to cover the Nuggets and do they have a starting lineup problem? We're going to talk about the Avs and whether we think the Olympics will help or hurt this team. And we're going to reflect on the Broncos season and talk about the AFC West and how it might look next year. So stick tuned and we will be right back.
Yo, welcome to the show. Let me set the scene. Mile High Sports Symposium, living the dream. Broncos in the house with that orange and blue. Nuggets making moves, watch that altitude crew. Avalanche bringing ice, check the skills they display. Rocky swinging bats, ready for game day. Rapids in the mix, kicking it with style. Buffs bring the heat, put the rivals on trial. Out talking JJT, they got the scoop. Mile High vibes, feel that energy rise. Sports on the menu, watch the crowd mesmerize. From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews, one of your hosts, and I am here with the doc, Dr. Nicholas Manning at DR_Manning on XDoc. How you doing today? Happy Wednesday. We're back. It's reunited and it feels so good.
It doesn't it? It just feels so nice.
Feels so good.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I loved watching the boys get wrecked. Not our boys, someone else's boys. But
yeah.
But overall, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I got to go shoot around today, get a little bit of workout in, so that's good. I'm trying to get back on the wagon. It's a hard wagon for me to stay on, but we're shooting for it. We're going for it. So, if you need to hold me accountable and call me out when I'm, grabbing my fifth whatever bag of chips, do it.
All right. I will. You know it.
How are you?
Nice job. Man, I've been I went and saw Mario Vitanzi yesterday.
Nice.
I'm doing here's how the oldness works for me for sure. Is that I'm lifting, doing like my lifting has went up probably stronger than it was like in a good chunk of like my 20s and stuff.
Nice.
Which is dope. However, my hips, Shakira was not lying.
It's true.
The hips they hurt, and it's impacting a lot of what I do. And Mario set me right, so I feel way better, but still a ways to go. So
yeah,
man,
For you, I feel like it's the hips for whatever reason. They get out of alignment.
Mm-hmm. It's like all hips, man. Everything's like connected to your hips and all the things, and so I'm no different. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm upright. I did squats today, so it's like I'm functional. It's tender.
Yeah. It's always like the next day. It was always for sure.
Yeah. Mario beat me up a little bit in that, but yeah, man, just getting into first week without football since what, the end of July? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a period of mourning for a lot of people. Understandably so, after having to watch that Super Bowl because it was hot garbage.
Yeah.
Like we wanted competitive ball and we didn't get that, and it's unfortunate. But hey, congrats to the Seahawks. Of the two teams, I was definitely rooting for them. I like McDonald. I think he's a good coach. I like what they're putting together over there. Ultimately, I think the Broncos are in it. They got a shot to win that game, but it's not the reality of the situation. And so we have to take some time later to reflect on the season. But, it is a dark period for a lot of fans who maybe aren't basketball fans or hockey fans. Or even if they are, it's tough to go another, 5 months without any actual football to watch. You know, it's a dead time for that.
Yeah, yes.
But we got draft. We'll be talking some
We do.
draft.
Yeah, we got a lot. Since you'll be out next week, our man Chris is going to be here joining me, and we're going to be talking some drafty stuff. I have no doubt when you come back, we'll be talking about drafty stuff.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Football is always around.
Mm-hmm. We'll make sure it's around.
Yeah,
we'll make sure of it.
Yeah,
it's part of our.
I know that I'm lame. Like my fandom heart is not. I don't have a big enough one to like carry it through without talking football. So it will be around.
Yeah, for sure.
So I did ping you like last second because I wanted to add a little bit if you don't mind. So podcast. Yeah, everyone knows. We do have a baseball team. Shocker. Okay. Is everyone saying with me? All right. I get it. Yep, we do. It's weird. Coors Field isn't just for the Zach Brown band. Okay. Or 4th of July.
Noah Khan.
Noah Khan? Phenomenal. Hugest. He's gonna make it one day, kid. Yeah. So again, I'm gonna preface this with I understand they're not good and they're not going to be good for a little bit. But we have adults in the room, which is just nice. Di Podesto, the new vice president. Essentially, they really have given him the keys to build a baseball team. And for that, I'm like, feel bad because it's like I'm grateful. Yeah. Now that they're going to be bad with competence, though, you know, like it's whatever. But they made some moves, mind you. It's not going to be ones that like all this stuff, but they're going to be a really young team as they should be. Rebuild, guys need to get, but in baseball it's a little different because every the certain amount of time that a player gets in the major leagues makes them eligible to arbitrate, to go and challenge and try and get more money, which is the thing. But so starting their clock, not great. You want to like time it from like when you be ready to compete. You start getting some of your guys to like the meat of their early deal. However, it's gonna be a while, and if these guys are any good, they'll stay anyway. And then you build out a block. They went and signed like 3 pitchers that have had previous success that are older. It's interesting though, like they are players with pretty good experience. So you have Jose Quintana, which you may or may not remember. He's played for the Milwaukee Brewers last year. He's like 35. And so what are you getting? Fair.
Sure.
35-year-old version, middle of the run. And part of they knew that they weren't going to get any top tier free agents. Okay. Right. But this guy had a sub-4 ERA last year, has had history of being able to be a good pitcher. He has pitched quite a few innings, especially as of late. So a guy that I think gets it and will be able to lead the room from some success. It's been a long time since Kyle Freeland was a good pitcher.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Since last time he had success, Kyle Freeland was a pitcher. Right. I think has been. Okay. You get me. And so, and mind you, it's a deal for like $6 million, which I think it's a really smart move to go get the aging veteran guy on a short cash kind of deal because you're still paying like average annual value. You're paying pretty significant than what some of the other guys have got. You got 15, 30, $45 million a year contracts. This guy isn't that he's not that good anymore, but the strategy is apparent. And that's why I'm excited about it. It's not that these guys are going to make a deal. So then they went out and got his name. Maybe. So they went and got Michael Lorenzen, who was a phenomenal pitcher for a bit. Phenomenal. That's a little strong. Was a good pitcher for a little bit. And then they went out and got Tamayuki Sugano, who is a Japanese pitcher, won the Japanese equivalent of the Cy Young 2 years in a row, which if you don't understand or appreciate or respect Japanese baseball,
yeah.
So some really good some guys that I think will bring some veteran quality that this team hasn't had for a while. When they brought vets in, they've been pretty terrible. Then you have Chase Dollander, who's kind of the number one pitching prospect at least this time. Ryan Feltner's had some success. Tanner Gordon, who pitched pretty well last year. Gabe Hughes, who was brought back in the Ryan McMahon deal. And then you have Kyle Freeland, who maybe, just maybe, if he's not the only pitcher older than 27, 5, right, whatever it was, that maybe, it's going to be a little bit of a more evenish plate. And so I, again, am not signaling this as the boys have made it and we're back. But just some confidence. It's money that is not going to help you compete for a championship.
Right.
However, so it'd been really easy to say, we're not going to spend an extra $30 million this year on guys that aren't great or going to be a part of our future. Said, we're going to spend money to make us a competitive team, right? So if a young guy is earning innings, he's earned it a little bit more versus, I think what was happening is guys were just getting thrown out there because there's no rhyme or reason. There's no plan.
Sure.
And then, so I really like that. He's made some more under the radar moves. And so I, again, not to overhype the bandwagon, but at least spring training, I think, and as veteran presence, especially you got guys with different backgrounds. So you have your Japanese background. You have, let me make sure where he is from. Quintana's from Colombia. So you got some guys across the landscape a little bit. Lorenzen obviously is an American, has pitched in the playoffs and that kind of stuff. But you got guys that I think now that culturally can maybe communicate with guys who maybe they look like, sound like, talk like, and help communicate some success versus no one really being that successful in that room. Kyle Freeland being the guy that's experienced the most. That was pretty short-lived to be able to kind of be the leader. Both Quintana and Sugano, both are going to represent their team in the World Baseball Classic and have done before. And so some things like that I think is pretty cool. And so that and, Chris Bryant's already on the deal. And so I think that is a signal of he's just not going to play for the Rockies again. They're going to eat it, but essentially him being on the roster doesn't help because one, he doesn't play.
Right.
And two, they need younger guys to be able to get their time. So that's my Rocky stuff for a little bit. But they're not going to lose. They're not going to go 50 and 100 and whatever. Right. They might go 68 and 92. Maybe, sure. Yeah, for sure. But at least just raising the floor a little bit. In the end, if you got at least some veterans who you can be a little bit more predictable, understand the game, can help teach some of the guys the nuances. I think that's it's a pretty cool thing. So with that.
I was just going to say, I think when your team was so bad last year, I think raising the floor is probably a good first step. You go from pretty much being an unwatchable project to a program to being, a team that when you buy a ticket, there's a little bit of hope that you might pull one out. That matters to fans. I don't think anyone wants to buy a ticket in a stadium that's kind of overwhelmed with the opposing team. And you just feel like there's not really any shot you're going to get a win. And if you do, it's more of a lottery, a lottery win than anything else, a spin of the slots, so to speak, but I think raising the floor is probably the best way to start. I think getting a little bit more veteran presence in there people to coach up these young guys, or at least even if it's just by example. This is how a professional acts in the MLB. And I think that matters for this team, and it will matter going forward.
Yeah, it's they made some other moves. They got Jake McCarthy, who was was a toolsy prospect in Arizona. Eduardo Hien, who is a second baseman, who they're pretty light on. A younger guy, but starting experience from Minnesota, playing second base. Willen Castro, who played with the Cubs last year, and so guys with modest but plus wars. So guys that are coming on and being able to contribute. Then you have your young guys like Jordan Beck and Ezekiel Tovar, who are still under 25. Hunter Goodman is 26. They're all-star catcher, and so there's some good stuff. I think they can take a couple more swings at maybe some first basemen who if they're good with the glove and can hit a home run, that plays well, of course, and so some good stuff. We'll see. The bullpen, I think, has been improved a little bit, but really expecting some guys to really grow. Victor Vodnik is a gas pumper. That guy's going to be pitching in the upper 90s most of the time. So there's guys like that I think could be pluses. So there's some optimism, and at least again, when we talked about the Broncos and how great it was that you could see the plan. I can see the plan.
Yeah.
It's not. It is not finished, but at least it's kind of a step towards who this team is going to be and the moves that they've made. And I think they've done so in a financially smart way, so that you aren't burning through your cash now. And then you burn the owner, doesn't want to pay when you're ready to be competitive. So
right.
So anyway, that's I'm a little excited about it, just because I love baseball in this last year, 2 years, 3 years, but just miserable.
Yeah. It would be nice to have a product that's worth flipping on, especially in the dead season when there's no other sports on. It'd be nice to just know that there's some ability to be competitive. We got some shout-outs. Bronco Rob, what's up, man? Cody, thanks for showing up and tuning in. Appreciate you. D-Rock, what's up? How are we doing today? Shy's here. We got some guys in the chat.
Yeah,
folks in the chat that are excited to have you. If you got questions, put them in here. We'll hit some questions too. Bronco Rob asked Walker to Denver. Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, is a free agent.
Sure.
That does make him more expensive, unfortunately. But I think it's understandable that Broncos fan would be interested in getting a guy like that. A little bit of some health concerns throughout his career thus far, but young. What do you think about that? I'm obviously like the idea of it. Do you like the idea with the price tag?
Do I? Let's see. So I think Spirac, what's his projected?
It's projected.
So he's only made $8 million in his career so far. So rookie deal, 4 years, about 8.4 million. He's not going to go for that. So would you go for market value of $9 to $10 million? Spotrac has it at about 9. So 4 years, 36 million. That puts him in the same range as, it's interesting, man. Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay. Seems reasonable.
For that kind of deal. David Montgomery, 2-year deal, 18 million. So about the same. So kind of comparable to that. It's hard because it's prisoner of the moment, right? Kenneth Walker, sure. I think has been an okay player, but hasn't been. This last year's or his rookie season was the only year that he played more than 50% of the snaps, which running backs, I guess it's so he's had 2 seasons, 1,000 yards, 1 season at 900 yards. This last season was his worst with touchdowns because Zach Charbonnet he's a touchdown merch, and but it's a guy that catches the ball in the backfield. 31 catches on 36 targets. Has only fumbled 3 times in his career. Has only 2 receiving touchdowns. I don't know if I haven't watched enough Seattle football to know if that's that's
Same.
kind of on him or on them. But I would love it. Would I spend $9 million on a running back? You know, he's only missed 1, 2. He's missed 8 games in 4 years. So 2 a year. Would you, for that kind of player? Maybe. I mean, he's got, I think, he play a majority of the snaps. The question is just going to be, is that, you know, you could get a pretty good, I mean, the level of tight end you think you could get with $9 million, or, you know, that's kind of the question. But love it. He won't be a Bronco. I would highly doubt it. I would highly doubt that, you know, if they have dollars to spend, they'll spend it on a tight end or a receiver. But I think, so would it be dope? Yeah. I mean, you saw the difference, right? Like the one team could run the ball. One team couldn't run the ball.
Right.
Team that ran the ball, the Super Bowl champion, team couldn't run the ball, isn't. So the Broncos, when we weren't able to run the football, you know, our offense is pretty stagnant. We're able to run it. You at least diversify all that stuff. That's why, yeah, the projection of what chance the Broncos would have had in the Super Bowl with J.K. Dobbins was significantly different than without him, regardless of who the quarterback was. So they got to do something. Like an alpha has to come in here. The hard part is the injury history. You're still going to have to go draft another one, I think, to complement that room. I think you're going to need 3 guys just based on skill sets, etc. And I'm here for it. I'd be here. I'm all here for Kenneth Walker come to Denver campaign. I will, you know, I'll sit on that board, Bronco Rob. You can share it. We'll be on it. But I think we might have to look elsewhere. That's my sad 2 thoughts.
I think I like the idea of it. I don't mind if that's what they want to pay for. I'm okay with that. I do think there's other needs that may be a little more pressing, but you know, running backs right up there for me. And if it eliminates a need to kind of take a higher draft pick, you can kind of take a flyer later in the draft on a guy that maybe has some upside or kind of fills a specific need that you think you need in that room. I'm good with that. I kind of like the idea of getting a more established guy instead of just kind of throwing darts at the board and hoping one of them hits at some point. But you know, it's tough because of the value of that position. You know, you're not probably going to draft one. I mean, unless Jeremiah Love falls or they just absolutely love someone in the draft process, they're probably not going to use pick 30 on a running back. You know, just given this class, there are some intriguing guys in this class, not to take away from them, but you know, it's kind of one of those positions that if you invest, you can kind of sit on that group for a little bit. You can bring in, you know, unrestricted free agent, a third day guy, you know, and let them compete and see what happens if there's guys that you like that you think have some hidden potential. So I would love Kenneth Walker to be here. Ultimately, I think Seattle will probably find a way to keep him. I think, you know, a young guy like that who's already seen success with the team probably wants to be there. You know, they probably want him back. So we'll see. Maybe he'll take a bit of a home team discount. Maybe not. It's his first major contract. So we'll see. But it's definitely an interesting prospect.
Yeah.
Let's transition. I want to talk Abs just real quick. I've just got there's a question of whether this Olympic break is going to help or hurt this Avs team. As we know, kind of going into this break, the Avs got a little bit cold, had started losing some games. Production just wasn't there. It didn't look like the effort was there on a night-to-night basis. Part of that's just the high level of play they started out the season with. You know, eventually that's going to tamper off a little bit. But you have so many guys going to the Olympics. Is this actually going to be a restful time for them? Is this going to be a time for recovery like we're hoping or not? And then the one thing that I just kind of want to mention is the reason that I love Nate. They got him there was a quote with him at the Olympics. Someone asked him like, "Oh, you know, are you going to enjoy your time in Italy?" And he said, like, I'm not here to vacation. I'm not here to rest. You know, I'm here to win a medal with Canada. I mean, I love that. Obviously, you want that guy on your team, but at the same time, like this is a good opportunity for him to kind of, you got a stacked team. You're going to play some teams that aren't, super competitive. Maybe not beyond holding down the gas the whole time. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on just kind of this break for the Avs, and whether you think it's going to be a positive or negative for this team, or
Yeah,
maybe just a lot?
I talked about it a little bit last week, and I think
Okay.
I actually feel more convicted now. I think it's good. If you were to ask me this a month ago, I would have said no. Like, I don't want them to. I don't want them to do that. Sorry, just so everyone knows. My kids are writing me notes on the side. That I would have had this team because they were so cohesive. Things were going so well, I would have said no. Like, let's batten down the hatches, boys. Focus on blah, blah, blah. Now there's been a little bit of adversity, and I think it's going to be maybe a positive thing for not necessarily Nate McKinnon, because I think that he's wired like that. Olympics or like even if they were off for the All-Star break, right? Like, you think he's going to go sit somewhere and chill?
Right.
That's just not.
I think he's not wired that way.
He's not wired like that. And so, but Lecky already had, and I was listening this morning on my commute between a couple places, and he had already had an assist, playing. And so it's a little bit of like some time for some of those guys to like be the man a little bit, like they're great. You might be a third line or a third pairing on the Avs, but you might be the best player in Finland.
Right.
And so just some of those things I think are, maybe that part's nice. I think because of so many things, like playing for a gold medal in other countries is more important than a championship, a professional sports championship. I think in the U.S. we've been spoiled by the amount of medals we have watched other athletes get on our behalf. And we, because we are who we are, I value the Super Bowl more than a gold medal, It's just, that's me even, and I don't play in any of that crap.
For sure.
But hockey is a little bit different, man. Hockey and soccer, those are ones that there's much more pride in kind of your country of origin. And basketball is getting there now that it's it's international, right? The All-Star game is going to be the world versus the U.S. And it's like, I actually think the world is stacked, American sport. And then all of a sudden now you were the underdog. Like there's now with that change, I think it just provides a little bit more. And, the Olympics were better, right? The USA going against Jokic and like those guys had to play hard to win. You get some respect and you get camaraderie with some of your country mates, which, think about too. There's guys on the Avs who have to speak English as a second language and probably do better and all that stuff. But it might be nice for for guys to be able to go home, for Olofsson to go home and be able to speak with his fellow countrymen. That's just, I think that there's got to be some for that. The hard part's going to be it is added risk for injury.
For sure.
Depending on what country you are, like I don't know what the accommodations are like for athletes. Is it pretty universal across the board? Is it, if you're a country of halves, you get like the great hotels and all that stuff. And if you're not, or, that part I don't know. So that could have a hidden effect. But I think for hockey players, I think it's a good thing. And I'm glad that Landy's going to be able to play for Sweden. So I think some of that, like that was a target for him to do. He wanted to do that. So I think, it's pretty like telling and the battery juice refiller. But so because they're a little clunky, having some time of like break kind of from the Stanley Cup push monotony of that to competing for your country. I think it's a little bit more love in it than job. And maybe you bring a little bit of that love back and you lock in for the second half. So that's the way I'm choosing to see it. Don't know if that's really but I'm choosing to believe that, you know what, it's going to be a good thing. They're struggling. You know, let's take a break, but a break that's in shape. Yeah. Let's go to Cancun. Smashing nachos. Yeah.
As nice as that sounds.
It does sound great.
I think that.
I also don't. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I think that I think you're right. Ultimately, you know, assuming everyone gets out healthy, you know, who that's obviously not something we can predict.
Right.
I think there's just there is something to just getting away from kind of the grind of being with the same guys in the same locker room, you know, or you know, on the same flights with the same dudes over and over and over. They're an 82 game season. You know, there's just, it gets stale at some point, you know, even for guys who love the team, love their teammates, you know, it's always good to, what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder, you know. You want to spend a little bit of time apart, it makes coming together a little more exciting, a little more rejuvenating. So I'm hoping that that's the effect. Also, I do think they'll get a little bit of downtime. They'll get some time to rest. They've already been off, you know, nearly a week now. I'm sure they're doing practices and scrimmages with their teammates, but you know, obviously this is a little bit of time to recharge a little bit, get after it next week, or actually starting tomorrow, I think. Men's hockey starts in the Olympics, so keep an eye out for that. But I think ultimately it'll be a good thing. So I agree with you there. What's up, Milehead Medlock? How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. One of our Mile High Outcast guys. Always appreciate you. We'll talk Nuggets real quick, or do you want to do our like little our ad reads and stuff?
Let's
probably should have talked about this ahead of time, so I'm just going to put you on the spot though.
No, you know what was up. You know what it is. If you haven't yet, go like, subscribe, follow,
all the places,
comment, algorithm, all the things. Orange and Blue Network, YouTube, Facebook, on X, depending on how you are consuming this today. Go do that. And you know what? Sometimes you need a little bit of pick me up. Again, I'll tell this for the 100th time. Dad, right here. I don't even know how I would live with caffeine. I don't even know how cavemen did it. No wonder they didn't live very long, because they were tired. And they probably fell asleep, got eaten. You got to be able to do what you got to do. Stay up on it. So W, you can use the code OBN10 for the orange 10 or Boniacs 10. However you want to remember it. Because remember, it has all the good stuff, none of the bad crap. Okay. If you can't pronounce it, don't put it in your body. Just saying. And with that, we are one of the many of awesome shows. Here's some insight. We are part of the Orange and Blue Network, which means there are a number of shows and hosts on this network that primarily talk Broncos stuff. But you know, we always support our fellow guys on the network. You got Orange and Blue Blitz Mondays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Bronco Bros Mondays at 7 p.m. Nothing rhymes with Orange and Blue Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Ourselves, of course, Wednesday at 2:30 ish. Broncos Talk Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mile High Outcast Thursday at 7 p.m. Our Spanish Broncos show, Los Broncos, Friday at 6 p.m. Breaking news, pregame, play-by-play, and postgame, which will be on hiatus for a little bit, obviously, since the season's over, but still something to keep in mind. But breaking news, hopefully we'll have a lot of that over the off season. Hopefully positive breaking news, not bad breaking news, but that's fresh squeeze. Get Buck, the Bucking Booth, and Buck Your Feelings. So please go over to the network, YouTube, get a like in there, subscribe. We got shows around the clock. They'll pop up on your feeds, and hopefully you can join us and get some good fan content, some perspective from a group of guys that are diehards. Bet. Yeah,
all
right. To your regularly scheduled programming.
That's right. Let's talk Denver Nuggets. I think we're going to spend a good time on Nuggets. Then we got some reflecting on the Broncos season to finish up the show. Wanted to touch base on this Denver team. Been a little bit rough lately. I think they've lost 4 of their last 5. Some close games in there. A double overtime loss to the Knicks. Loss on a good James Harden shot the other night against the Cavs. Competitive, they're hanging in there, doing a good job considering the injuries, but kind of winning against a stretch of competition that has been pretty good. You played the Pistons, you played the Knicks, you played the Cavaliers, you played OKC in the last week or so. I just want to kind of get a take on. I think tonight's our last game before the All-Star break, which I think this team needs more than any other team, maybe in the league, just from a health perspective. But just want to get your take on struggles so far at kind of the last week plus since Jokic has been back. They've looked a little bit passive at times. He's looked a little bit passive on the offensive side of the ball, which we're kind of familiar with at times. Any concern, going into All-Star break that maybe this team or roster isn't constructed as well as we had hoped?
I don't think I'm not worried about the roster construction. Okay. I think it's been hard when you have injury after injury and being able to kind of stay afloat. When they had their lineup, they looked pretty damn good. And so my feeling is they've shown that they can do it against the best with, when they have their horses. And right now they're getting some back who are working themselves in. I mean, Cam Johnson's only had a handful of games back. Jokic has only had a handful of games back. And I think that my concern more is, I think actually like this All-Star break came at like a perfect time.
Yeah.
Like they needed it a little bit. I'm super glad for Jamal Murray that he gets to go. And I think him going will probably be more rejuvenating than him missing the All-Star game and going somewhere and relaxing, because I think this is going to go a long way for his validation as a player. But I think this team needs a little bit of a break. They've been undermanned for a ton of the season. And so, having more clarity and, and some healing from bumps and bruises and all that good stuff, I think will be big for this team. And then being able to kind of reset together will, I hope, kind of even them out.
Yeah.
Put you at least on even playing field with everybody else, because everyone else is going to be off, right? They'll take some time for everyone to kind of gel again. Unless your teams that have been together a ton, you might need a little bit of time. And I think that lends itself pretty well for the Nuggets. Right now they're tied for third in the Western Conference. So in the end, they're where we want them to be.
Yeah.
And in the end, they're going to have to go through San Antonio and OKC to win a championship anyway, then likely the Lakers or the Rockets. So to me, it's a little like, I'm not worried yet. I think if they get to the dance, they're going to have to beat two out of three of those teams anyway. So you hope that they get, you get a 3 seed, so you get a little lighter of a low 2 seed would be super great too.
Yeah.
But I think they stack up fine. I'm not worried, because I think the pieces are great. How the fit is when they get back, like rotations, Peyton Watson is a different player than he was 3 months ago, right? When guys started going down, I don't think you can put that genie back. I think to be an elite team, he's probably got to be your like third option. Kind of goes against the original planning of it all. So is Cam Johnson fit? Those kind of things. So I think their roster is constructed well, but it's changed, like just the roles and stuff. So that part I think would be the part that I see as the biggest hurdle for them having postseason success. That and injuries. I was joking that like they must have hired all the Chargers trainers, because dear God, like what? Like who's not hurt? Like, who's not hurt? Is Tyrod Taylor about to get a shot in the heart?
Yeah.
His team doctor. Like, Jesus, like what are we doing over here? What are we doing?
Poor Tyrod, man.
I mean, just saying, man. I mean,
I know,
Justin Herbert's probably not Justin Herbert if that doctor doesn't puncture his chest the needle. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
a bad moment.
But that's every Every time we get a nugget back, another one falls down.
Yeah,
Jesus.
this is how it feels right now, and it's
a lot.
I'm hoping that this team actually rests during all the All-Star break for the most part. I hope they spend some time kind of out of the gym and getting a little more healthy. Obviously, your young guys do is kind of more grinding, but I think everything we heard kind of over the summer was like guys were in there early and often. You're kind of hitting a point in the year that if you've been grinding since the summer, maybe it's good to just sit down and chill for a little bit. Obviously stay in shape, that sort of thing, but just kind of get your feet back under you individually, and then your health just kind of as a team. Like, let's just work on that. How do you feel about? Because Chris had asked us this previously. Do you, when something like this happens to a team and you have guys going down as often as they have been, you kind of always look at the training staff. Do you think that is a more of a reactive thing to like, hey, we're having some bad luck, guys are getting hurt. We need someone to point the finger at. Let's look at the training staff. Or do you think that that's a legitimate gripe that we should have right now as fans? Like, hey, obviously, these guys are rehabbing, getting back into shape, but Christian Brown came back too early and re-injured himself. Aaron Gordon is out for a second time with a soft tissue injury. How much of that do you think is actually, you can attribute that to either a bad recovery process or maybe a focus on or not bad, but maybe a focus on, healing, but not necessarily strengthening longevity?
Yeah, I think so. Is it a direct correlation or causation? I can't say that, right? I can't say because they trained like this, that happened. But there's enough data at least to say whatever they are doing is not working. So,
That's fair.
Is it bad training staff plans? Maybe the teams are, teams just a bunch of dummies and not listening. Or he's not motivating. They're not motivating the players to be able to stick to the plan. Their diet is it's hard because it's like there's so many contributing factors that you don't know, right? Wear and tear of just travel and all that stuff, or guys taking care of their bodies. But the guys that are getting hurt too are some of the guys that do the most. Aaron Gordon does everything he can do to be a good basketball player. So that part I do worry about. Like, if you get injured a lot, it doesn't just stop. So,
right.
I think so. You saw it with the Broncos. It's football, right? Like, football probably is the highest risk for injury, I would assume, just based on the sport. But I might be wrong. And the Broncos were one of the healthier teams the last 3 seasons. I think that there's some, with the altitude and things like that, like we have things working against us in keeping our guys healthy. And they we're figuring out how there's something that we're doing that is preparing guys to be able to play and make it through 15, 16, 17 game schedules. So, and I know basketball, these sports are different, more games, but definitely less abuse when you're playing those sports than this sport. So, whatever they're doing ain't working. And, you got to look under some rocks. You can't build a championship caliber team with the best player in the world and potentially, right, like the best player in the world at his sport. Like, it's like him, Shohei Ohtani. I think that Jokic is probably better than McKinnon, McCarr, or like how he plays all of the facets of the game. In my opinion, when you look at, like he's in like a goat of goats right now in this era of sport. And so you can't mess around with that stuff. And whether or not it is, I don't think we need to define it to say, hey, whatever we're doing here you better get right. Like, I'm not going to trade all of my players because they get hurt, but I'll fire you. There's got to do something. And I'm definitely not let's start axing people because things don't work out with things. But because it's such a high stakes, sporting environment, that you don't get to rewind these years back. You have Jamal Murray just cooking. You found Peyton Watson, who's just freak 6'8", dunk on your face, is now shooting threes, great defender. Aaron Gordon, the best player in the world. Like, how are we not? I think that's a better basketball team than Oklahoma City. Ball is there. We're hitting on cylinders. They're hitting on their cylinders. I like our cylinders better. So if we're not playing up to that because of injury or whatever that might be, that's unacceptable. I don't think it's okay to chalk it up to we get hurt and stuff. Yeah. A freak ankle break because someone lands on you, right? Like, yep, you get that. Like, you can't prepare for the awkwardness, but pulling your hamstrings, right? Straining your thumb, like stuff like that. Whatever we're doing didn't prepare us for the game. So I'm actually it's bothering me because it's like every time you watch it, the guy comes back, get super excited. Cam Johnson comes back, Watson goes down. I mean, it's been like that where it's like within the same game or a game or two stretch where it's like, yeah, all right, we're starting to get oh shit. Now we're starting to get pieces. Maybe that's why I hurt so much because the Nuggets are rubbing off on me. And it's like, geez.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. That's the dumbest thing I probably said in a while. It wasn't good.
It's fine.
I know not everything can be a banger, sometimes.
It's true.
Sometimes
you gotta out there to see what it sticks.
I mean, Big E, I appreciate. People do appreciate the game of basketball. It's not football. As a football head, I understand it, but we have a chance to win some championships across the Denver landscape, and I'm going to celebrate that. So,
I appreciate you being here, anyways. We'll talk Broncos. Don't worry.
Again, by the way, talk Broncos again.
Yeah. The other thing I want to ask just on the Nuggets. So at some point, I'm not going to make an assumption, but I'm hoping that this team will be healthy, that we'll get our full starting lineup back. And I just wonder if the Nuggets, with the emergence of Peyton Watson, with how they're going to roll out that starting lineup, and if it's going to be what we expected it to be, I wonder if there will be a consideration of taking Christian Brown out of the starting lineup and inserting Peyton Watson into it. And I wonder if that will cause issues. You've got two young guys. Christian just got paid. Obviously he's playing in a large role in this team. He was given the keys to be the starting point for this team. Shooting guard for this team. But Peyton Watson has come in and, shown that he has a really high ceiling. He's got some ability on the offensive side. He really worked on the game. It feels like maybe he should be rewarded for that. When other guys went down, he stepped up. He helped keep this team afloat. And to be honest, if you're looking at the season as a whole, given that Christian hasn't played a ton, maybe you trust Peyton a little bit more right now with how he's been playing. They're both healthy. Do you think that there is a potential problem, or maybe not during this season, even coming into the offseason with these two guys? And do you think that it may require to be moved off of?
Yeah, there's got to be someone. So is that Cam Johnson? Is that Christian Brown? My opinion probably actually would be that you have Cam sit down. He just hasn't been as impactful when he's been on the floor anyhow. I think he's a good defender. I think that Christian Brown is a better defender. So maybe you bring that. But I think one of those, I think Peyton Watson is the answer to a long-term question. Like I said, you opened that box. I don't even want to close it again. Like, he figured it out. You reward a guy who did what you've asked him to do and changed his game and been pushed. And it's hard because it's like, well, what if he gets the most minutes out of the three and he closes? Yeah, I kind of would just rather just play him as much as we can play him. the fairness part, they get paid for it, so there's no fair in it. It is, let's do what's best for the team. He is 4th on the team in points per game, right behind Aaron Gordon, right ahead of Tim Hardaway Jr., which is kind of interesting. Christian wasn't burning up before he left, averaging under 10 points a game after signing that deal. Cam is under 12 points a game. So, guys that aren't necessarily, have been irreplaceable. I think Christian has played worse than the two, but I think his backcourt defense is a little bit more helpful. You have him and, you got Christian, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon. That's a pretty damn good defensive defensive trio playing kind of wing to wing. So that would be me. But I think my concrete answer is Peyton can't sit down. I think Peyton Watson is their starting small forward, and I think that in my opinion is non-negotiable.
Interesting. Yeah, to see how they negotiate that, like how they approach that.
There's attitudes and there's egos, and for a team that likes each other and all of that stuff, still a whole bunch of elite alpha dudes who have always been the best on every team in life, and then now you are, you got paid, and both Cam and Christian have gotten pay, and then now this upstart kid who really has only put it together for like 25 games, in his life. So let's not, he's had some flashes, but not where he's like, oh man, that's a consistent stretch of, downright, like he had dominant stretches, not just like good stretches. I like Christian Brown. Is Christian Brown ever dominant in his time in the NBA?
Not really.
I mean, I can't look at it and be like, yeah, like that Christian Brown stretch was some of the best basketball I've seen. Those don't go together. At least as a nugget, Cam Johnson has not done any of those either. Peyton did. I mean, Peyton Watson. There was a few infographs, right, where it's like Jokic-esque, where it's like no one since has done this, and it's like Peyton Watson. Anytime you can do that, and it's like connected Hall of Famers, it's gonna feel pretty good. So that's why I like where this team's at, because of some of the injuries they've had, some of the lack of cohesion. You found out Zeke Naji could play basketball. Michael Malone just didn't want to play the guy, which is just absurd. Spencer Jones getting run, and congratulations to him being getting his full deal.
An actual roster slot.
Yeah, and they were able to figure it out without Valanciunas. Bruce Brown's been okay since he's been back, but he wasn't NBA Finals version of Bruce Brown. But you haven't had to need him to be, because the other guys kind of stepped up, which afforded this team the opportunity to finally trade Hunter Tyson for a bag of chips and some Kool-Aid. So I like where the team's at. I think they'll be all right. I think with Nikola Jokic too, he won't let them fail. So we might not win it all or something like that, but they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah. I got you. I agree. I think the break will help, and I actually think that when we come back, we'll feel a little different. I think it'll feel a little different.
100%. I think so too. I think this team needed it more, and so I actually think the break is good for this team. I think, I think the way that the world is designed for the Avs, that one will work out. I have more concern about that working out than this, but I think it comes at a good time, even for Jamal, who won't be resting, of playing in a 3-point contest. First time since Bashan Leonard in 2003, I think. I mean, it's good for the Nuggets. But you know what? Football is king. I'm a man of the people.
That's true.
The people. And so let's take a look a little bit. So I think, I'm going to ask the question that everyone has asked, because we all are smart. Do the Broncos, if Bo Nix is healthy, I think we all can agree. You guys can agree in the chat and give me a thumb or whatever. Broncos win the AFC Championship game if Bo Nix plays, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, me too. Me too. All right. Do the Broncos win if J.K. Dobbins plays in the AFC Championship game, but not Bo Nix?
Yes, I think so.
Me too. Okay. All right. I don't know if Jared Stidham, do you think Stiddy played in the Super Bowl? Do you think the outcome is any different? And not that necessarily that the Broncos would have won, but do you think that they play a tighter game, even per scoreboard? Right? Do they play tighter? Do they cover? Is this a more competitive game with Jared Stidham? I have to assume if they made it to the Super Bowl, JK was going to play. So with Jared Stidham and JK Dobbins, is this team or was that team, do they maybe at worst, they lose 27-20 or something? Do you think that statement is accurate? With Jared Stidham, JK Dobbins, this team loses by a touchdown or less.
I don't. I don't. I think that we saw in the playoff game against the Patriots that he did good when it was scripted in that drive, and then wanted to freelance a little bit, it got tight and he struggled. Yeah. And I think that with the pressure that Seattle was bringing against the Patriots, that would pose the same issue that it posed for Drake May, in my opinion.
Yeah, to some of the Broncos have a better offensive line.
Yeah, that's true.
I heard Zach Stevens, right? Or the DNVR guys were talking about it. Will Campbell gave up the most pressures in the history of the Super Bowl. And that means I watched the majority of the 80s Broncos Super Bowls. John always getting his face kicked in. Yeah, and that was worse than any of those. Like the Broncos, defensively, I would think that they would have came with a more pressure look, try and get Sam Darnold to make a negative play. I think in the AFC Championship game, the Broncos played better than the Patriots did. If 2 plays, right, and a couple reviews or things like that could have or shouldn't have.
Sure.
Jared Stidham throws the ball on the ground. If that gets called as a back or as a pass, that game is significantly different. Broncos kick a field goal or do a sneak instead of play action boot. If the Broncos are up 10-0 at that game, the game is over. And I think hopefully maybe even confidence is different. I don't know that they win either. I think Seattle was a phenomenal team, and I think offensively they have more playmakers. The guys you can rely on, Cooper Kupp, 33, you just glue for hands, right? JSN's out. That sucks. But you have a former, you have a triple crown receiving, Super Bowl MVP, Pro Bowler as your other guy. And then on top of it, you have Kenneth Walker, who, the chat started early with what about him to Denver? I mean, you don't say that if a guy's not good at football. So I think the Broncos have a lot of that. If Bo Nix plays, I think the Broncos have a much better shot. Here's why. So
for sure. And
I mean, I think I would have felt confident in saying that they'd win the game, whether or not they would. But I feel like I would say if Jared Stidham were in the game, I would say that the Broncos are going to win the game, but I don't know if I would believe it. I wouldn't bet. I'd bet a child on it, not my house. But anyway, because I think Bo Nix, there's a gamer that Drake May doesn't have. He doesn't have that, at least not yet. He played terrible throughout the playoffs. He got drugged to the Super Bowl. And so I think some of the putridness you add, their terrible offensive line, they weren't that good. Patriots offensive line is not great. I guarantee I know where they're going to be drafting players next year. But you got a guy who has been absolutely phenomenal, especially in the clutch. And so I think if you have that and your defenses are pretty even, if both guys are getting pressured, who do you think folds more, Bo Nix or Sam Darnold? I'm going to go with the guy that has the stones. So, and I think my worry would have been actually that Sean Payton would get in his head and try and call a really cute game instead of leaning on the run, and like just doing it the way that you would need to do it, and then maybe they couldn't dig out of the hole or something like that. But it was definitely hard to watch, and not just that the Broncos weren't in it, but that Bo Nix got hurt and the Broncos were winning it. Like that part kind of sucked, just out of your hands. It's like, but you could see it with Drake May. Like Drake May never get back to a Super Bowl again.
Oh, for
ask
sure.
Dan Marino, right? Like he might never get back, and the Broncos, like we might not ever get back to the AFC Championship game or have a chance to go to the Super Bowl again.
Right.
Bo Nix's time. I don't think that'll be the case, but it sure might be. So that part hurts for sure. I think that they would have played. So with that, I think the deficiencies, let's talk about those a little bit. So top 3 areas that the Broncos need to address in the offseason. See if you agree with me. Okay. They need a bell cow running back. I think like a difference maker at running back. Would you agree? Okay.
I do.
I think they need a Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, JSN, a guy that's going to win routes and catch the rock. Like that's a first down chain mover, reliable, like throwing the damn ball. Would you agree?
Agreed.
And then we're doing the offensive thing because I think that's where we need it. We need a tight end who is above average at blocking and receiving, all in one person.
Yep.
Would you agree that those are the top 3? Okay. I think, and let me know if you all disagree. I think Chris asked a really good question. This one is the one that I pose because I think it's hard with that position in getting your bang for your buck. The Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley class of free agents. I don't remember a time like that where even like wide receivers that had left in free agency, like that tier, were as good as those 3 guys going and then being that good.
Right.
And so that hasn't been the trend. And so I like Kenneth Walker. If they went and got Kenneth Walker, I'd be pumped. I don't think they will. I think that they would go get someone more in the Dobbins range, maybe Tyler Algier, like guys like that that would come here with the hungriness of being a starter, and like being the man, get paid a little bit, but not enough because you need another running back to that room. Or you draft it, but Tyler Bidet should not be your answer as the 3rd running back. He's got to earn it. Maybe you can earn it, but I'm going to go bring in at least 2 to 3 guys to this room because we're going to have the best room, not just an okay room, like the best room. So that to me is that. Do you agree with that? I mean, do you think Kenneth Walker, so if he gets 9 to 10 million because of Dobbins' injury history, you bring Dobbies at 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Is that $5 million difference between the 2 players? Would that be worth it for you versus knowing that you could use that $5 million on another part of your plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Walker does things that we just don't have anyone that can do that right now. Even Dobbins, like I love Dobbins. He runs between the tackles, he gets the ball a little bit. But the way Walker was able to get to the edge against the Patriots and just something happen, take contact in the backfield and still make something of that. That we really have a back like that right now. I think that's really valuable. However, there are some guys that are a little bit further down the list that will be free agents that I'm interested in too. That might not be quite as expensive, that are just kind of that they do things that we don't have in the room either. And I think that if you are going to maintain a 2-back system, which obviously Sean Payton likes RJ Harvey, so I don't think that he's going to get put into a role that's not at least like a 60-40 kind of deal. Yeah. That you can probably fill that with a guy that's not a 3-down back per se.
Okay. Yeah. And so with that, I think Chris asked, where's independent living? Where's linebacker? You can tell I worked today. That would be 4th. I think that they're going to bring back either Alex or Justin, and I think with that you have Greenlaw still. Could they cut Greenlaw because there's minimal guaranteed because of that injury history? I think they could. I think he's just so good though that I think you try and hold on to it for a minute. but I think that they'll draft a guy too. I just think if I were to shake out the three, like I only got money for three things. The three things on offense would be the three. Inside linebacker is paramount, but I think that they're going to bring their guys back. At least 2 out of 3 if you include Greenlaw. So I think you like what they do, and I bet Alex gives them a quasi discount, because he wants to stay. I bet Sherrod would want to stay too, but I think he would rather go be the man.
Yeah.
And if things stay the same, he would still kind of be in his role. So with that, so you said, there's some guys that you would be wanting or thoughts about. If you were to rank the three, all right. So if you were to rank them, running back, tight end, receiver, to the degrees that we talked about it, not just a player, but guys that are dudes. Think about how you'd rank them. My answer this. You have Paucho, who I think is a restricted free agent. If I were to recall, you can't pay 5 linemen like they are right now. You're paying all 5. Like you got to have someone on a lighter deal or a rookie deal. And really, kind of last season was a pretty good season. This season was a better season. But his 4 years here, he hasn't been what you were hoping. Hasn't been what you were hoping for. And so I think that one would make sense. I would think maybe they'll try and restructure him first and see if he'll take maybe a haircut to stay, keep the continuity. But I think with Paucho, you got a little bit of leverage. So with that, give me your 3 in order. What is the least important out of the 3? Running back, tight end, receiver.
Probably running back for me.
Okay. Because you feel like you could go get cheaper options.
Yeah, I think you can
like a first wave problem solving.
I think you could get a third day guy in the draft. I think you could get J.K. Dobbins back. Like I think there are guys in free agency that's interesting. I don't think it's the highest priority.
That's fair. It's fair. I mean, there's a lot of talent in there, assuming that all of it goes. You got ETN, you got Najee, Javante, Dowdle. In stretches, Nick Chubb looked okay. Brees Hall, Dobbins, you got Walker, Mozart, who's been a starter, AJ Dillon, who has been
Brian Robinson,
Miles Sanders, who's been okay, Brent Robinson, Alexander Madison, who was actually pretty good and kind of like but Rashad White, who I really like. I think can do a lot of things for you. And then, there's guys I think that probably could have played if they played on better teams. Right. Damian Pierce has been a starter. We talked about him. Tyler Algier, who I really like. Ty Chandler wasn't too bad in some spots. Isaiah Pacheco, depending on what you're looking for. So, yeah, I think that there's some guys. So what's number 2? What's your second?
Tight end.
Most tight end.
Just from value, just again, a value thing. Troutman's he's a blocking tight end. You got a guy who can do that. I love a pass catching tight end, but
Adam Troutman's a restricted free agent, so he's not going to be on the roster as of March 1st. So, I mean, all that to be said.
That's fair.
All right. I mean, so there's going to be some names too. Yeah. So, barring health, Zach Ertz, might not be ready, but Tyler Higbee, who I think would really be kind of cool. I think he's longer in the tooth on a 2-year deal. I think he's a guy that contributes all the way around. Your boy Taysom Hill. I don't really know if he's the tight end, but you have Dallas Goedert, you have Njoku, you have Travis Kelce, Austin Hooper, who has been a pretty good player this year for the Patriots, which I think is kind of interesting. Mo Alley Cox, he did. Your boy Noah Fant, Tyler Conklin, who's been a good player. Jelani Woods, who I think never got realized. And then, you got some guys who probably yesteryear or like a guy like Daniel Bellinger, who's 25, tight end for the Giants. I think some guys, Chig Owonkwo, who I really like. I think that would be an awesome one. Isaiah Likely. Connor Haywood. I actually don't know if he's good, but his brother is good. So, but I think there's plenty of starters that are on the market. And so then when we go to wide receiver, you got Mike Evans.
Yep.
He's a pretty good player, even if at the advantage of 33. Christian Kirk, I think, has just been kind of underrated, even by me. Debo, I think he played well, even though he was a little heavier last year again. Chris's boy, Diamond Brown. I don't know how I feel about him. Just
I
as
thought you were going to say George Pickens.
Around. We'll get there. Marquise Brown, Juwan Jennings. You got Tutu Atwell. I think guys that do a whole bunch. Rashid Shaheed, who we saw is kind of a revelation for that Seahawks team. What a smart deal they made that we did not. Even DeAndre Hopkins had a pretty good year last year. A guy that I think is a sleeper, Jahan Dotson, who was a first-round pick for the Commanders. And it started to show a little bit in Philly, but he was the third guy after they traded him there. And so Wan'Dale Robinson, who came out of absolute nowhere. Kendrick Bourne, guy who had moments. Alec Pierce, deep threat. Don't know if you want to go get him because you have a few of those. But I think there's a bunch of guys that can come in and contribute and challenge for some snaps, make it uncomfortable for the guys who are here because we got to see some growth. Romeo Dobbs, who is still young, could be a player. So I like that. And I think if I were to spend some free agent dollars, I don't know that I would spend it on the top, but I would feel better about spending it at the top to get a guy like Mike Evans on a 2-year, $50 million deal or something like that with, that's over the market. His market's probably going to be 15 million maybe for a year. So would I give him 16, 17 to lure him to make sure he came? I feel better about that than if they went too high on running back. I feel a little bit better at tight end if they went for a Nwankwo or a guy that can do both.
Right.
And so, but my question to you is, would you rather go get – so, Pickens in the market. That's why I didn't talk about him. Would you go get – so because the money would be similar. So you got Mike Evans. Say you go get Mike Evans or you go get Rashid Shaheed. Rashid maybe is at $20 million a year. So 4 years, $80 million. Or you go get Nwankwo and Rico Dowdle, 4 years, $80 million. So you get two of those players, two starting contributor players who are difference makers at their position, or one, grade A-ish, probably grade B because it's a free agent player at receiver. Which one would you go? What about you, Chris, Mr. GM man? What about you, Big E? We're talking football. Where'd you go?
I know, right? I would rather pay for a top end wide receiver talent right now. As much as I like getting more bang for your buck, getting two guys that you think can play and have some upside at running back and tight end, I just think wide receiver is a position you've got to spend on. I think, to be competitive offensively, you've got to spend on that position. So I think, as much as I'm tempted, my mind says get the two guys, but my heart says you got to pay a top tier wide receiver if you want to be competitive.
Okay. Question for you then, because one, I don't feel really good about spending $22 million on Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
So with that though, I've warmed up to this. Tell me what you'd rather have.
Okay.
Would you rather have Rashid Shaheed at 4 years, $80 million, or 22s, in between 80 and 90 total, or you trade a third-round pick for A.J. Brown?
I'd rather have A.J. Brown. I like Rashid Shaheed and some of the things he can do. I think he's a little bit redundant with Mims, and so I think that I would rather have Brown, who can win at all the levels. I do worry that he would be a bit of a locker room negative.
Do you think he would be, seeing as how you have like a competent offensive coach? I
don't necessarily think he would be, but I think it's a possibility for sure. I think that he's shown
past
that
behavior is a best predictor of future. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And I think it depends. Like, this offense can get real stale. This offense can get real, a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage, a lot of designed plays to get guys open. Maybe that would change if you had a legit number one that could stretch the field a little bit more. But I don't know that that's the case if Sean Payton's going to continue to call plays.
All right. I like it. If it were me, I would go to free agency for running back and tight end.
Okay.
And I would trade for a disgruntled receiver.
Yep.
I think that to me would be a place I go. I think you get someone that has less guaranteed money left as a receiver. So if they were prickly, I think it's a guy that you can get out from under. DJ Moore, maybe they want to be able to move on from that because of the way that they're constructing their roster. He wants to get paid. That would be a guy that maybe I target and see if, back end second wouldn't be worth it. There's just some guys like that I think probably could be gettable. Like AJ Brown, I'd rather have that than go spending on a guy who had a good playoff run. And then now we're kind of that team that's chasing a dependent position because we're desperate. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely, yeah. Define blockbuster. If I were to say, I don't know if I would go make a blockbuster deal, but if I were to define blockbuster, I would say either it has to be like two Pro Bowl players trading for them each other, right? Like big equivalent of in the NFL anyway, or anything that brings back 2 firsts or the equivalent of, you get a first in 2 seconds or something, like that to me is a pretty damn big deal. So either, multiple star players or Pro Bowl caliber players switching hands or what have you, or at least one and some significant draft picks.
Well,
good. Well, I answer it anyway because I do what I want. Oh, right here. That's why. Nick, look at the chat. Yeah. I mean, if you could work it out, give Georgie 25, 26, 7, 8. I mean, he's player-wise, he's worth with that market, he's in that second tier of really good receivers. And do that, but would you trade a first and show all that money for George Pickens? Would you? I don't know. Like, I don't know about any play. Like, I don't know what player I'd feel good about, like paying them free agent money.
I don't know.
So you're starting
it's kind of a weak draft class too.
You're starting you're starting the guaranteed money as opposed to someone else starting that. I think the wide receiver group is good in the middle. You're going to get a good number 2, something like that. Maybe a guy with some upside for 1, but not that ready. So I'd be for it. I think that they will go get someone. I would go get him too. Yeah, I guess you're right. But I do it for a first. If that gave me the best option at the position I needed. With a young player, I think the caveat being because George Pickens is like 25, right? 4. So, yeah, you know what, Chris? You win. I do it. Yep. I do it. Cool. All right, friends. We appreciate you. Thanks for staying over with us. We love the sports, but we love it because we get to enjoy it with you and all the things. So let me get us a chance to check us out. So do us a favor. Make sure you go talk ball with your friends. We need each other times like this. But for the best co-host in the world, JT, again, I'm Nick. We appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week, probably, most likely.
From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire. So grab your crew, let's hit the show. My high sports symposium, let the good times flow.